To anyone who comes across this video, I want you to know today that you have been chosen to be among those who will foresee what is to come before it happens upon the earth. Please, beloved, kindly treat this with the utmost importance. Watch this to the end to fully understand what is coming so that you and your loved ones will not fall victim in the days ahead. Tell us where you are watching this video from so that we can pray with you as a family. I will now begin sharing today's experience. My name is Elber J. Holloway. I am a staff sergeant in the United States Army. I have been stationed in Iran for the past 4 years. And I want to be honest with you before I say anything else. I almost did not make this video. I sat in front of my phone for 3 days. I would pick it up, I would open the camera, and then I would put it back down. Because I kept asking myself, who am I to say something like this? I am not a pastor. I am not a prophet. I am just a soldier, a man who grew up in a small town in Georgia, who joined the military at 19 years old because I wanted to serve my country and I did not know what else to do with my life. But something happened to me on the 3rd of March, 2026, and I have not been the same since that night. Not even a little bit. I need you to stay with me, because what I am about to tell you is going to be hard to believe. I know that, and I am not asking you to just take my word for it. All I am asking is that you listen, just listen, because I think some of you watching this right now, something in your heart is already telling you that something is coming. Something feels different. Maybe you've been feeling it for weeks now. Maybe you woke up this morning with this weight on your chest, and you do not know why. I felt that way for months before the 3rd of March, like something was building up, like the air around me was getting heavier every single day. Now let me tell you about the 3rd of March. It was late, very late. Everyone in my unit was asleep. I had been awake for hours because my mind would not quiet down. Things had been tense, not just in Iran, not just on base. I mean, the whole world felt like it was sitting on the edge of something, and I am not talking about any one thing. Just a feeling, a general, heavy, unsettling feeling, like when a storm is coming and the wind stops, and the birds stop singing, and the whole world just goes still. I sat on the edge of my bed. I put my boots on the floor. And I just started praying, quietly, not out loud, just talking to God in my mind. I was asking Him to protect my family back home, my mother in Georgia, my younger sister and her kids. I was asking Him to give me peace because I had not felt peaceful in a long time. And then something changed. I do not know how to explain this in a way that makes sense, but the air in the room shifted. That is the only word I have for it. Shifted. Like the temperature changed, but not in a cold or hot way. More like the pressure changed, like the whole room became quieter than it already was, if that is even possible. And there was a light. I want to be careful about how I describe this because I do not want you to think I am exaggerating. I am not someone who uses big words to make things sound more impressive. The light was not blinding. It was not like a flashlight in your face. It was more like the room became brighter from the inside. Like the walls, the floor, the air itself had a glow, and it was warm, not temperature warm, soul warm. Like when you step inside a house after being out in the cold for a long time and you feel the warmth go all the way through you. I did not panic, and that surprised me later when I thought back on it, because I am a man who is trained to respond to threats. My body knows how to react when something is wrong, but in that moment there was no alarm going off inside me. There was only stillness, and a strange, deep sense that I was not alone. I looked up and I saw Jesus. I'm going to say that again because I need you to understand what I mean. I saw Him, Jesus, standing in that room, not as a vision far away, not like a dream, right there, present, more real than anything I have ever seen with my eyes in all my years alive, all my years in service, all my years on this earth. He was not what I expected. I had seen paintings of Him my whole life, the long hair, the robes, and there was something familiar about the figure I saw, but also something so far beyond what any painting could ever show. The presence coming from him was something I cannot put into words. Authority is the word that keeps coming to me, like standing in front of someone who did not need to raise their voice to make you feel the full weight of who they were. But it was not frightening authority. It was the kind that makes you feel safe, like nothing in the universe could touch you as long as you were standing near him. He spoke my name, not Elber, not Sergeant Holloway, just Elber, quiet and steady, and in that one word I felt like he knew every single thing about me. Every mistake, every lie, every prayer I had ever whispered into the dark. Every moment I had doubted him, and he was not angry. He was not disappointed. He was just there, present, and he wanted to show me something. He told me to look. He revealed to me that I needed to pay attention to what I was about to see, that it was not just for me, that I was being shown this because he wanted it to go further than just my own heart. He made it clear that I had a responsibility with what I was about to receive, and then something shifted again. The room did not just disappear this time, it dissolved. Slowly, like the walls became transparent first, then the floor, then everything around me, until there was nothing left of that base in Iran, nothing left of the bunk, and the boots, and the small Bible on the shelf. All of it was gone, and I was somewhere else entirely. I was above the earth. I want you to try to understand what that felt like. I am a man who has been on military aircraft. I have looked out of windows at the ground below from high altitudes. I know what that looks like. This was nothing like that. This was not a view from a plane or a satellite. This was a view from somewhere that had no name, a place where you could see the whole planet at once but also see every street on it at the same time. Both things were true simultaneously, and the clarity of it was unlike anything I can connect to a normal human experience. The earth below me was turning slowly. I could see the continents. I could see the curve of the atmosphere, and I could see light and dark moving across it the way day and night move. But there was something else moving too, something that was not weather and was not natural, a kind of heaviness that was spreading from different points on the globe at the same time. Not darkness exactly, more like a pressure, like the air itself was thickening in certain places, and I watched it spread the way you watch ink spread in water. Slowly at first, then faster, then suddenly everywhere. Jesus was beside me. I could feel his presence even before I could see him clearly in that new place. And he began to reveal things to me, not all at once, in a sequence, like he was walking me through something he wanted me to understand completely, not just witness from a distance. He was patient with me. Every time I felt overwhelmed by what I was seeing, there was something in his presence that steadied me. Like a hand on your shoulder when you are about to lose your footing, he showed me the world first in a kind of overview. He let me see it as a whole before he brought me down into the details. And what I noticed from up there was how connected everything was, how what happened in one place rippled immediately into another, how no country was actually isolated from any other, how the whole thing was like one body, and how when something happened to one part of that body, the rest of it responded. I had known that intellectually before. As a soldier, you understand geopolitics in a certain way, but seeing it from this vantage point was something different. It was feeling it rather than knowing it. Then he brought me down, closer, into the streets, and what he showed me first was an ordinary day. I need you to understand how ordinary it was, because that was the point. It was a Tuesday morning somewhere. I could tell by the light and the traffic and the rhythm of it. Coffee shops were open. The roads were full of the normal morning rush. Office buildings were filling up floor by floor. School buses were on their routes. The whole enormous machine of normal life was running exactly the way it always ran. Nothing about it said anything was wrong. Nothing about it suggested that this particular morning was different from 10,000 mornings before it. And then Jesus revealed to me what was about to happen to that ordinary day. It did not start with something dramatic. That was the first thing that surprised me. It started with a feeling. I watched it move through crowds, The way a feeling moves when everyone in a room suddenly becomes aware of the same thing at the same time. A shift, a collective change in the air. People were going about their business and then they were stopping. Not because they had seen or heard anything specific, but because something in them, something instinctive and deep, was telling them that the ground had changed under their feet, even though the ground looked exactly the same. I watched a grocery store where someone had stopped mid-reach toward a shelf, a hand suspended in the air for a moment, and then slowly lowering without taking what it had been reaching for, a phone coming out of a pocket, a face changing. That was where it started, in one person, in one small gesture. And within minutes it was everywhere. Every phone and every hand was showing the same thing. Every screen and every store and restaurant and office was carrying the same message. The announcement had come. I did not hear the specific words in the vision, but I understood them. It was a global order, universal, simultaneous, the same instruction from every government in every country reaching every citizen at the same moment. Stay home. Close everything. Do not go outside. This is not a request. And the world cracked open, not violently, not all at once, but like a crack in a windshield that starts small and then runs in every direction faster than you can follow it. The first 10 minutes were almost silent, just people stopping, processing. And then the movement started. The running started. The reaching for phones to call family started. The lines at stores started forming so fast that within an hour they were wrapping around buildings and spilling into streets. Cities that had been running on their normal rhythms emptied of their usual sounds and filled with a different kind of sound. The sound of fear that has not yet decided what shape it wants to take. Jesus revealed to me that this first day would do something specific to people. It would strip away their confidence in the systems they had trusted. The systems that had always been there, government, commerce, communication, transportation, all of it would still be technically functioning, but it would feel suddenly unreliable in a way it never had before. And in that gap, in that sudden emptiness where confidence used to sit, every person would be left alone with what they actually believed, not what they said they believed, not what they posted about or performed on Sundays, what they actually, genuinely, in the quietest part of themselves believed. And for many people, that moment of being left alone with that truth was the most frightening part of the whole first day. I watched the streets of cities I recognized and cities I did not, all of them doing the same thing. Emptying, the traffic disappearing, the noise level dropping, storefronts going dark one by one as owners locked up and left. And in the midst of all that emptying and quieting, there were moments that broke through the general picture and stayed with me long after the vision moved on. Outside a tall office building, a briefcase sat on the sidewalk. Whoever had been carrying it had set it down and not picked it back up. It sat there on the empty pavement, and something about that image captured everything about the first day. All the things people had spent their lives carrying, all the things that had defined their days and their identities and their sense of purpose, suddenly sitting unclaimed on an empty sidewalk. Not because those things were bad, but because the day had arrived when none of them were the thing that mattered. In a neighborhood somewhere that looked quiet and residential, a front door opened and someone stepped out onto a porch and looked up at the sky. Not at a phone, not at a screen, at the sky, just standing there, looking up. And I felt something, watching that, because how long had it been? How long had it been since most people stopped long enough to just look up? And here, in the middle of everything falling apart, that was the instinct. Look up. I thought about that for a long time after the vision. I am still thinking about it. Jesus revealed to me that the first day had a specific spiritual quality to it. He revealed that for his people, those who truly knew him and walked with him, there would be a recognition in their spirit on that first day. Not full understanding, not perfect clarity, but a recognition. Like hearing a piece of music you have heard before and knowing it even if you cannot immediately remember where you heard it. A signal going off in the spirit, a prompting, a drawing toward prayer and toward stillness. And he showed me that those who responded to that drawing, who stopped the rushing around and got quiet and went to their knees, those were the ones who would be positioned rightly for what the next 3 days would require of them. In a small house at the end of an ordinary street, a kitchen light was on. There was a table with a Bible open on it. The Bible was old and clearly well used. the kind that falls open naturally to the most read pages. And whoever lived in that house had turned the television off and sat down at that table with both hands resting flat on the open pages. And they had bowed their head, and they stayed like that for a long time, not moving, not checking anything, just still. And the peace in that room was visible in the same way that the fear in other places was visible. You could feel it even from outside the window, even watching from wherever I was watching from. And Jesus revealed to me that this was his people, knowing the time, not panicking, not stockpiling, not trying to explain or control, just knowing the time and responding to it in the only right way. I found myself thinking about my grandmother again when I watched that kitchen. She would have been exactly that still, exactly that sure. And I missed her in a way I had not let myself feel in a long time. The second day, Jesus stayed close to me as the vision moved forward. He never rushed me. Every time the scene shifted to something harder to watch, he gave me a moment. I did not always use those moments well. There were things I saw on the second day that I was not prepared for, no matter how much time I had been given. The second day began differently from the first. The first day had the energy of shock, of something happening so suddenly that the human body and mind run on adrenaline because they do not know what else to do. The second day had the energy of the morning after, when the adrenaline is gone. When you woke up hoping it was a bad dream, and you checked, and it was not a bad dream. When the weight of the situation settles onto you fully for the first time, and you realize it is not going anywhere. The streets of every city I was shown were completely empty now, and the emptiness had a different quality on the second day. On the first day, the empty streets were alarming. On the second day, they were simply true. This was the world now. These empty streets were what things look like now, and there was something about the permanence of that, even just for that moment, that was almost worse than the initial shock. Jesus revealed to me that the second day was the day of refinement. That word stayed with me. Refinement. Like when metal is put in fire not to destroy it, but to burn away everything that does not belong to it. The second day was that fire, and it did exactly what fire does. It showed what was real and what was not. It showed what relationships were built on genuine love and what was built on convenience. It showed what beliefs were genuine and what was just habit or social performance. Inside a large and well-furnished house, the kind that from the outside spoke of a very comfortable life, something was breaking. Not the walls or the furniture. Something between the people inside. I watched it happen in the small things first. The way a comment at a breakfast table landed wrong. The way a response came back too sharp. The way a door got closed with slightly more force than necessary. And then the bigger things. Voices rising. Old grievances surfacing because the pressure of being confined together with nothing to distract from each other had made the surface of everything too thin to hold what was underneath it. And a child somewhere in that house was in a room alone, and the sound of raised voices was coming through the walls. And that child had their knees pulled up to their chest and their eyes fixed on the ceiling. And I had to look away for a moment. I genuinely had to look away. And then in a different place, a much smaller and simpler home, something completely different was happening. Whoever lived there had gathered in the main room, and the father of the home had gotten down on his knees first, and one by one the rest of the family had followed. And they prayed together for a long time. The kind of prayer that is not performance and is not habit. The kind that comes from people who are genuinely talking to someone they genuinely know is listening. And when they finished, the youngest child climbed into the lap of whoever was holding them and put their head down and was completely still. And there was a peace in that room that the big comfortable house down the road would have given everything it contained to have. Jesus revealed to me something about those two households that I have thought about almost every day since. He revealed that the difference between them was not income or education or circumstances. The difference was what had been built before the days arrived. The choices made in ordinary time. The habits of the heart formed in normal life. The second day simply showed what was already there. Pressure does not create character, it reveals it. And whatever you have been building quietly in the ordinary days of your life is exactly what will be standing or falling when the extraordinary days come. On the second day, I also watched what was happening at the level of governments and authorities. Not in a way I can give you specific details about, because some of what I was shown in that area I am genuinely uncertain about given my position as a soldier, but I can tell you the atmosphere of it. The atmosphere inside the places where decisions were being made was not the atmosphere of people who were in control. It was the atmosphere of people who were very practiced at looking like they were in control, while everything inside them was searching frantically for something to hold on to. The gap between what was being communicated to the public and what was being said in the rooms behind closed doors was significant, and Jesus revealed to me that the world's leadership in those days would be doing what human leadership always does. When it encounters something beyond its ability to manage, it would reach for the tools it knew, and those tools would be insufficient. Not because the people using them were bad or incompetent necessarily, but because the tools of human authority are simply not built for what was happening. There were conversations happening in those rooms I was shown, about uniting responses, about consolidating authority, about finding a way to bring all the different responses to the crisis under one coordinated structure. And Jesus revealed that this was not accidental, that even in their grasping for control, those in authority were inadvertently building something that had been written about long before any of them were born. He did not say it with triumph. He said it with the grief of someone who had warned about it a long time ago and watched it come true anyway. I watched something happen to the communication systems of the world on the second day that I want to describe carefully. It was not a complete failure, but it was an interruption. Intermittent, unpredictable, the kind of thing that in any other time would have been a minor frustration. But in that context, in those days when the only connection most people had to anything outside their homes was through their devices, even a brief interruption felt catastrophic. And what happened in those gaps, in those moments when the screens went dark and the signals dropped, was something Jesus specifically pointed out to me. In those gaps, people were returned to themselves, forcibly returned. The endless scrolling stopped. The constant consumption of other people's voices and opinions and fears stopped. And in the quiet that was left, something surfaced. For some, it was anxiety, because they had not been alone with their own thoughts in so long that they did not know what to do there. For others, it was something gentler and more unexpected. A memory, a feeling, a sense of something they had been half aware of for years finally getting enough space to make itself known. A sense that they had been neglecting something important, something that did not have a name in the language of normal life, but that every person who has ever been honest with themselves knows is there. Jesus revealed to me that he had allowed those interruptions specifically to create those gaps, to give silence back to people, because in the silence, he could reach them in ways that the noise had been preventing for a very long time. By the end of the second day, what I was watching across the world was exhaustion. Deep, comprehensive, full-body exhaustion. Not just from lack of sleep, although there was that, but from the emotional labor of holding everything together, of being strong for other people, of processing something enormous without the usual outlets and distractions. And in that exhaustion there was a softening. People who had been very defended, very closed, very certain that they did not need God, were finding that the certainty was harder to maintain when they were this tired. And some of them in that tiredness let something through, let themselves ask the question they had been avoiding, let themselves consider the possibility that they had been wrong about something important. And Jesus revealed to me that he was near to those people in those moments, that the ones who were too tired to keep the door shut were the ones who would feel something they had never expected to feel in the middle of a crisis. A quietness, a presence, a sense of being known and not alone. And some of them would spend the rest of the second night talking to God for the first time in years, or for the first time ever. I need to go slowly here because the third day was unlike anything else I was shown, and I want to get it right. When the vision moved into the third day, the first thing I noticed was the sky. In the normal world, in any normal place, the sky is either light or dark, day or night, with variations of color and cloud and weather in between. But the sky on the third day of what I was shown was neither of those things. It was a color I have no name for, somewhere between gray and purple. Not the beautiful purple of a sunset, Something heavier and stranger than that, like the atmosphere itself was doing something it had never done before, like it was responding to something. And the silence on the third day was the most complete thing I have ever experienced in any form. In the vision or outside of it, every sound that human civilization makes, the traffic and the construction and the music and the conversations and the technology, all of it was already gone. But even silence has a texture. The silence of a quiet neighborhood is different from the silence of a forest. The silence of the third day was its own thing entirely. It was not the silence of absence. It was the silence of presence, of something arriving, of something being held in place just before it was released. If you have ever stood in a very large open space right before a storm breaks, when the wind has gone completely still and the air feels different, and every instinct you have is telling you something is about to happen, that is the closest thing I can compare it to, but multiplied by something I cannot calculate. Jesus revealed to me that the third day was the day when the spiritual world would be closer to the physical world than it had been in a very long time, that the distance between what people could see with their eyes and what was actually happening in the realm beyond what their eyes could access would be at its thinnest, and that some people, those who had been living in genuine communion with God, would be able to feel this, would be able to sense it in their bodies and their spirits in a way that would not frighten them but would prepare them. Like the way certain animals sense a change in the air before a weather event, a deep instinctive knowing that something profound was close. What I was shown inside the homes of believers on the third day was the most beautiful thing in the entire vision, more beautiful even than what I eventually saw on the fourth day. Because what I witnessed in those spaces was faith functioning exactly as it was designed to function. People who had nothing left but God, no phone signal, very little food, no news, no contact with the outside world, no certainty about anything that could be seen or touched or measured. And in the middle of all that emptiness, praise. Actual genuine praise, not the kind you perform. The kind that comes out of you because it is the truest thing you have. The kind that sounds like it costs something because it does. In a living room somewhere there was a gathering, not large, maybe 8 or 10 people. Different ages from what I could tell. Some sitting on the floor, one person with hands raised toward the ceiling, one lying face down on the floor with arms stretched out, someone in a corner with a back against the wall and eyes closed and lips moving. Nobody was performing for anyone else. They were each in their own space with God and also together at the same time, and the atmosphere in that room was so different from every other room I had been shown, so thick with something good and real and true that I felt something in me physically respond to it, like a pull. Like something in me recognized something in that room and wanted to move toward it. I wanted to be in it. I wanted to step through whatever barrier existed between where I was in that room and sit down on that floor with those people and not get up for a very long time. Jesus revealed to me that moments like that one were happening all over the world on that third day, in different languages, in different kinds of rooms, in different cultural expressions and traditions, but all pointed toward the same place, all of them connecting to the same source. And he revealed to me that every one of those moments was seen and registered and held, that nothing was lost, that nothing was overlooked, that every prayer lifted in those hours was received. And I think about that a lot. Because from the outside, from the perspective of anyone watching the world on that third day, those people looked like the most powerless people in it, locked in their homes. No food, no news, no ability to do anything about anything. And yet in the spiritual reality of what was actually happening, they were the most significant people on earth in those hours. Their prayers were accomplishing things in the spiritual world that no military force and no government decision was capable of accomplishing. But then Jesus showed me the other side of the third day, and I had to look at it even though I did not want to. Across the world, in the places where faith had been absent or refused, the third day had a completely different character. The spiritual pressure that the believers were feeling as something beautiful and approaching was being felt by others as something crushing. The same closeness of the spiritual world that filled one kind of room with peace was filling other rooms with a dread that people could not explain and could not shake. Something was pressing down, something was making the air feel wrong, and without any framework for understanding what that was or what to do about it, People were responding in ways that ranged from desperate to destructive. Some were searching, frantically and sincerely searching. Bibles that had been sitting on shelves unopened for years were being opened, not out of habit, out of genuine, desperate need. Pages were being turned with shaking hands by people who did not even know what they were looking for, only that they needed to find something, and they were running out of time to find it. And Jesus revealed to me that he was meeting those people in those pages. That even then, even in the final hours of the third day, he was present in the searching. That the door was still open. That anyone willing to walk through it could still do so. But there were also those who faced the full weight of the third day and responded with a hardening. And I want to be careful about how I describe this because I do not want to sound like I am condemning anyone. I am not condemning anyone. I am just telling you what I was shown. There were people who, when the pressure reached its highest point, when the spiritual reality of what was about to happen was pressing down on them in ways they could physically feel even if they could not name it, chose to close further rather than open, chose anger over surrender, chose blame over repentance, chose to harden the thing inside them that had been asking questions for years rather than finally answer those questions honestly. And watching someone make that choice in real time. That was something I was not prepared for. Because it was not the choice of a monster, it was the choice of a person, an ordinary frightened person who had been hurt and disappointed and who had built walls over a long time and who, even now, even at the last possible moment, could not bring themselves to let those walls come down. And I felt something watching it that I did not expect. Not judgment. Grief. Real grief. The kind that sits in your chest for days. Jesus revealed to me something about those moments that I did not expect. He showed me that his love for those people had not changed. Not in that moment. Not even as I watched the doors close from the inside. The grief I felt coming from him as we watched together was not the grief of anger. It was the grief of love that has been refused. And there is nothing in the world that feels like that. There is no human equivalent that captures it accurately. It was the most heartbreaking thing I have ever felt, even at the remove of being a witness to it rather than feeling it directly. The night of the third day was unlike anything else in the vision. It was the most charged and intense spiritual moment I witnessed in everything I was shown. More intense even than the fourth day. Because the fourth day was already decided, the fourth day was the result. But the night of the third day was the last moment of decision for countless people across the entire planet, and the concentration of all that choosing happening simultaneously was something I felt in my body as I watched it, like standing near something generating enormous power, like the air itself was charged with the magnitude of what was being decided in millions of hearts at the same time. I watched the sky on that night. The strange purple gray of the daytime sky had deepened into something even harder to describe. But there were presences moving in it. Things I understood were not clouds or weather or any natural phenomenon. Things that were positioned and waiting, that had a stillness about them, that was the stillness of readiness rather than the stillness of inactivity. Like the moment before something is released, like everything was drawn back and held. The way you hold a breath before you say the most important thing you have ever said. And I understood that the morning was coming. Tiles Vivion, and what I was watching in the sky was part of what would unfold when it arrived. Jesus stood with me through all of that night. I was aware of him the whole time, even in the moments when I was too overwhelmed by what I was watching to be consciously aware of anything else. He was there, and toward the end of that night, toward the deepest part of it, he turned to me. And he looked at me the way he had looked at me at the very beginning. With those eyes that knew everything, every part of me, everything I had done and failed to do and hoped for and run from. And he told me something, not something complicated. He revealed to me that what I had been shown was not given to me to carry alone, that the weight of it was not mine to hold by myself, that he was sending me with it, not to somewhere grand or important or impressive, sending me to the people who would hear my voice, to the ones who would be in front of whatever screen or device my words eventually reached. And he revealed to me clearly that among those people were some who were still in the place of choosing, still in the spiritual equivalent of that third night, still with the door open, still in the last window of time. And that my words, simple and limited and imperfect as they were, might be part of what helped them step through that door before it was too late. And then the fourth day came. The light I saw as the fourth day began was nothing I can adequately prepare you for with words. I am going to try because I was told to tell it, but I want you to know before I try that what I have available to me in the way of language is genuinely not large enough for what I saw. It did not begin like a sunrise. It began like a door opening in the sky, not metaphorically, like something in the upper atmosphere changed, like the quality of everything shifted in a specific place and then expanded outward from that place, like something on the other side of what we can normally see pressed through into the visible world. And the light that came through was not light the way we know light. It did not have a color I can name. It was not bright in a way that hurts your eyes. It was bright in the way that reveals, like when you have been in a dimly lit room for a long time, and someone finally opens the curtains all the way, and you see for the first time all the things that were there all along. Light had been hiding, and there was sound. I want to come back to the sound because it deserves more space than I gave it before. It had the shape of a trumpet in some ways. But saying that is not sufficient. It was made of something else entirely. It resonated in places inside me that sound has never reached before or since. Not in my ears. Deeper than that, in the center of whatever part of a person is most essentially them. And when it sounded, every person left on the earth in the vision stopped. Not because they chose to stop, because there was simply no other possible response. The sound left no room for any other response. It was the kind of thing that answered every question and ended every argument and silenced every fear and filled every emptiness all at once. And for just a moment, for the single breath of time between when that sound hit and when everything that followed began, the whole world was still. And then people rose. I will not attempt to go beyond that point right now, because what Jesus showed me from that moment forward is its own thing and deserves its own telling when I am ready to tell it fully. What I will say is this: the faces of those who rose were the thing that I have been least able to let go of since the 3rd of March. I have been in service for a long time. I have looked into a lot of faces in a lot of different circumstances. I have seen courage and fear and grief and love on human faces. I thought I had seen the full range of what a face could carry. I had not. What was on those faces as they rose was not something I had seen before anywhere. It was the expression of someone who has just arrived at the place they were always made for, who has just understood that everything, every single thing in their entire life, every moment of suffering and confusion and hoping and struggling and falling and getting back up, had been leading exactly here, and that it was all worth it. Every bit of it. Worth it. That expression, I cannot give it a name, but I carry it with me everywhere I go. It is the reason I am making this video. It is the reason I will keep making videos and saying whatever I have been given to say for as long as I am alive to say it, because I want to be the reason that someone else has that expression on their face when that day comes. And I do not want to be the reason that anyone does not. When the vision ended, I was back in my bunk, on the base, in Iran. The boots were still on the floor. The room was the same as it always was. Everything was exactly the same, except I was completely different, not partially different, not somewhat changed, completely different. Like the man who had sat down on that bunk to pray a few hours before was a different person from the man who was now sitting on it in the aftermath of what had just happened. I felt like someone had taken me apart down to the smallest pieces and put me back together. And in the putting back together, arranged everything in the right order for the first time. I sat there for a long time. I do not know how long. Time felt strange. I was shaking. Not from cold, not from fear exactly, from the weight of what I had just experienced, from the reality of it, because it did not feel like a dream. I have had dreams my whole life. This was not a dream. This was something I was in, something I was shown, something that was given to me with a purpose attached to it. I did not sleep that night. I got on my knees and I stayed there for hours. I was not asking for anything. I was just trying to stay connected to what I had felt in that room when the presence of Jesus was there, because when he was there, everything made sense in a way it never had before, and I did not want to lose that. I was afraid that if I moved, if I went back to sleep, if I let the ordinary world come back in too fast, I would lose the thread of it. Eventually, I opened my Bible. I do not have a big one. I have a small one that my grandmother gave me when I enlisted. I have carried it every day for over a decade, and I am ashamed to say I have not always read it the way I should have. But that night I opened it, and I read for hours. I started in Matthew, and I read and I read, and every few pages I would stop because something would hit me, and I would have to sit with it. The passages about the end of the age, the passages about being ready and watching, the ones about the separation of those who know him from those who do not. Every word felt like it was pressing directly on what I had seen, not in a vague, it could apply to anything way. In a specific, direct, undeniable way. I thought about my family back home. My mother. She has been a believer her whole life. I thought about her, and I felt a peace about her that I do not have words for. But then I thought about other people. Cousins I have not spoken to in years. Friends from high school, men in my unit who have told me clearly that God is not something they believe in. And I thought about all of them, and I felt something I can only describe as urgency. That urgency has not left me, not since the 3rd of March. It has been with me every day. It is the reason I am making this video. It is the reason I am sitting here in front of this phone, on a base in Iran, talking to people I have never met and will probably never meet, trying to explain something that I know sounds impossible. Now I need to tell you about the date. Because this is the part I am most careful about. I do not claim to know things I do not know. I have been very clear with myself, and I want to be clear with you. I do not know the day or the hour. Jesus did not tell me a specific time, but there was a date that came to me during this experience that I have not been able to shake. The 19th of March. It came to me clearly, not as a day the rapture would happen, but as a day when the things I saw would begin to move, when what I watched in that vision would start to happen in the visible world. The 19th of March. I do not know what that means exactly. I do not know if it means the lockdown starts on that day, or if it means something else begins on that day. I am not telling you to mark your calendar and quit your job. I am not that kind of person, and this is not that kind of message. What I am telling you is that this date was placed in my heart with a weight and a certainty that I cannot ignore, and because I was told to warn, I am warning. The 19th of March. Whatever that day brings, I am asking you to be ready before it comes. Not because of me, because of what I was shown. I want to say something to the people watching this who are in the military. Because I know some of you are. I know some of you are in positions like mine where you have been exposed to real things, and it has made you harder in some ways, where you have learned to shut down the parts of yourself that feel too much because feeling too much in this job will get you or someone else killed. I understand that. I live that. But I want to say that what I experienced on the 3rd of March was the most real thing I have ever encountered. More real than combat. More real than any moment of danger I have faced. And if a man like me, a man who has spent years in a place like this, can sit down and tell you he was brought to his knees by the presence of Jesus Christ, then I want you to consider that maybe God is not finished trying to reach you. I also want to say something to the people watching this who are not sure what they believe, who have questions and doubts, and have never felt comfortable in a church or around religious people. I am not asking you to be comfortable. I am not asking you to have everything figured out. All I am asking is that you be honest. Honest with yourself and honest with God. If there is any part of you, even a small, quiet part, that wants this to be real, that wants there to be something more than what you can see and touch and measure, then reach toward that. Just reach toward it. Because in the vision, the people who went on the fourth day were not the ones who had it all together. They were the ones who had said yes, who had reached, who had opened their hands. I do not know what is happening between the United States and Iran in ways I can speak about publicly. I am not in a position to give you a geopolitical analysis. What I can tell you is that being here for 4 years in this part of the world has given me a perspective on how fragile things are, how quickly situations can change, how a day that looks ordinary can become the day everything turns. I thought about that a lot after the vision, because the day I saw in the beginning of what I was shown looked exactly like an ordinary day. Traffic, schools, people at work, ordinary. And then it was not. I want to be careful not to connect specific things that I cannot honestly connect. But I will say this, the feeling I have had for months, the heaviness I described at the beginning of this video, has not gone away. If anything, it has grown stronger since the vision. Not heavier in a hopeless way, but heavier in an urgent way, like something is pressing on me to speak, to not wait, to not hold this inside any longer. And so here I am. I have prayed over this video. I have asked God to take what I say and put it in front of the people who need to hear it. I have asked Him to use whatever words I have, even the clumsy and simple ones, to reach someone who is sitting right where I was sitting before the 3rd of March. Someone who has been meaning to get right with God. Someone who believes but has not made it real. Someone who is afraid but has not yet let that fear push them towards something better. If that is you, I want to talk to you directly for a moment. I am not going to give you a list of things to do. I am not going to tell you to find a perfect church or say a perfect prayer. What I am going to tell you is what the presence of Jesus felt like in that room on the 3rd of March. It felt like being completely known and completely loved at the same time. Not loved because I had done something right. Not loved because I had earned it. Just loved. The way you love something that is yours. The way a father loves a child who has been gone a long time and finally comes back. That is available to you right now. That same presence. That same love. It is not locked behind a church door or a religious program. It is as close as turning your heart toward it. As close as saying, honestly, I want to know you. I want to be on the right side of what is coming. I will tell you what I told one of the men in my unit after the 3rd of March. I told him, I do not know everything. I do not have all the answers, but I know what I experienced that night. And I know that if I am going to stand in front of Jesus one day, I want Him to know me, not know my name from a list. Know me the way He knew me when He called my name in that room. The 19th of March is close. I am not telling you to be afraid. Fear is not what I am trying to give you. What I am trying to give you is the same thing that woman had on her face as she was lifted on the 4th day. That peace. That certainty. That belonging. My name is Elber Holloway. I am a staff sergeant in the United States Army. I have been in Iran for 4 years, and on the 3rd of March 2026, I was shown something that I believe was given to me so that I could share it with you. I do not know what will happen after I post this. I do not know who will believe me and who will not. I do not know what the 19th of March will bring, or how it will connect to what I was shown. But I know this. I would rather say this and be wrong than stay silent and be right. I would rather have people think I have lost my mind than hold on to this and watch people be unprepared because I was too afraid to speak. So please, if this reached you, if something in what I said made something in you respond, do not push that feeling down. Do not scroll past it. Do not tell yourself you will think about it later. Reach toward God right now. However you know how, with whatever words you have. Even if the only words you have are, I do not know how to do this, but I want to. That is enough to start. It was enough for me. And I believe it will be enough for you. Share this if you feel it needs to go further. Not for me, for the people in your life who need to hear it before the 19th of March, before the days begin. Before the fourth day comes, God bless you. Stay safe, and please, be ready.